Okay, in this session we will be discussing consecutive integers and word problems, and we're going to start with consecutive integers. Consecutive integers, alright. And I guess if we're going to discuss consecutive integers, we need to make sure we understand, first of all, that consecutive means back to back to back. Let's say 27, 28, 29, 55, 56, 57, 58, excuse me, 58. Alright, so consecutive just means back to back to back. Now, with integers, with the word integers, I think many of us aren't quite sure what we mean with integers. We sometimes get them confused with whole numbers. So let's talk about the two. Whole numbers. First of all, we get that whole numbers are, 1, 2, 3, without fractions, without decimals, without radicals, things of that nature. But what we sometimes don't understand is that whole numbers start at 0 and they go to infinity. So whole numbers start at 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, up to infinity. Alright, so what's missing from whole numbers is the negative side of the number line. So that's why we incorporate integers, because integers allow us to go from negative infinity to positive infinity. Alright, so integers incorporate the entire number line, negative to positive, as far as whole digits are concerned. So negative infinity, negative 101, negative 94, negative 83, negative 72, okay, negative 52, alright, negative 2, negative 1, 0, positive 1, positive 2. So again, still no fractions, no decimals, no radicals, alright, whole digits, whole numbers, but also incorporating the negative side of the number line. So the difference between whole numbers and integers being that whole numbers start at 0 and go to positive infinity, whereas integers start at negative infinity and go to positive infinity. So integers take into account the negative side of the number line, whereas whole numbers do not. Okay, so that's what we mean as far as integers goes. Alright, erase. Okay. Now, let's look at some problems that would be posed to us regarding consecutive integers. We see the sum of 3 consecutive integers is negative 639. Alright, the sum of 3 consecutive integers is negative 639. Alright, so if the sum of 3 consecutive integers is negative 639, then we need to find what the 3 integers would be. Okay, so I'm breaking this problem down. First of all, we need to understand that sum means to add or get the total. Okay, so we're saying we're going to get the total of, or we're going to add 3 consecutive integers Alright, so what do 3 consecutive integers look like? Well, let's just pick 3 random numbers. Let's say 3, 4, 5. Okay, those are 3 consecutive integers. Okay, now what we need to do then is understand the nature of these 3, the relationship between these 3 consecutive integers. Now, knowing the first number to be 3, we ask ourselves, well, how will we get from this first number to the second number? How will we get from the 3 to the 4? And the answer is you add 1 to the first number. So if I added 1 to the 3, which is the first number, it gives me 4, which is my second number in sequence, in series. Okay, so then you pose the same question, how do you get to this third number, which is a 5? But starting from the first number, we always start from the first number. So starting with this 3, the first number, how would I get to the third number in the sequence? And the answer there is add 2. So if I add 2 to my first number, if I add 2 to my first number, it gives me my third number in the series, which is 5. Alright, let's just pick 3 other numbers at random that are consecutive. Let's say 11, 'Kay, my pen's acting up now. There we go. Alright. Got my pen back. Okay. So now, again, we said, let's try 3 other numbers consecutive. So let's say we have, let's say 21, 22, 23. Okay. These are, once again, 3 consecutive numbers. Alright, 3 consecutive integers. 21, 22, 23. And so let's look at the behavior to get from the first to the second. To get from 21 to 22, I add 1 to the first number. So if I add 1 to the first number, it gives me the second number. Now to get from 21 to 23, I add 2. So if I add 2 to the first number, it gives me the third number. Now, based on this understanding, I can go back to my problem, which is asking for 3 consecutive integers whose sum is negative 639. Alright? So I don't know what the first number is, so I write x. I don't know what the second number is, but I know for the second number, in both of our examples up here, the second number we got from saying the first number plus 1 gave us the second number. First number plus 1 gave us the second number. So if our first number is x, then plus 1 gives us our second number. And third is first number plus 2. Now we said again, the sum of these 3 is negative 639, so when we total them, that's 3x, that's plus 3, and we said the sum is, so equals negative 639. Okay, so let's solve for x. So now I divide both sides by 3. Excuse me. And I get x. Excuse me. I get x equals a negative 214. Okay, so now I know what the first number is, because we said the first number is x. So that's a negative 214. So our second number is going to be x plus 1. So if x is negative 214, then negative 214 plus 1 is a negative 213. Remember, it's a negative number, so if you're adding 1 to a negative number, it's negative 213, not 215. and then the third number would be negative 212. So we found our three integers consecutive, back to back to back, and as we said, these three should add up to be negative 639. And if you look, 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 and 2 is 9, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So this problem checks out. Okay, so now let's look at another problem. Let's change some of this up. Okay, so now instead of, well, clear some of this stuff up here too. So instead of negative 639, let's go with negative 375. Okay, so we know them to be three consecutive numbers. Don't know the first number. You know the second number is going to be the first number plus 1. Third number, first number plus 2. So when we combine them, that gives us 3x. Combine here, plus 3. Set equal to the sum or the total, which is a negative 375. Excuse me. So let's see, we subtract 3, 3x equals negative 378, divide by 3, and you end up with negative 126. So the first number, x, is negative 126. So if you say that number, which is x plus 1, gives you a negative 125, and the first number plus 2, negative 124, total these up, you should get that. 6 and 5 is 11, plus 4 is 15, carry the 1. 1 and 2 is 3, plus 2, 5 plus 2 is 7, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus another 1 is 3. So this problem checks. Alright, so if you look at the two problems we've done so far, basically we found that we were able to come up with an equation that looked somewhat like this. 3x plus 3 equal whatever the sum they would give us, negative 375 in this case. Alright, so the question is, do we deal with all consecutive integer problems using this setup? Okay, so let's take a look. Let's erase some of this. Okay, so now let's go back to my eraser. Come here. Okay, the sum of three consecutive. Now instead of three consecutive integers, I'm going to input three consecutive odd integers equals a negative 57 now. Okay, so I changed it up a little bit. Still talking about consecutive integers, but now we're saying the sum of three consecutive odd integers is a negative 57. So before we establish what our first, second, and third terms would be, or the notation for our first, second, and third integers, let's just look at some numbers that fit this description. So three consecutive odd numbers. I guess the easiest would be to say 1, 3, and 5. Those are three consecutive odd integers. 1, the next odd integer would be 3, and the next odd integer would be 5. So if we know what the first one is, then starting at the first one, how do we get to the second one? Well, we add 2. So if you add 2 to the first number, remember we're always adding to the first number. Add 2 to the first number, it will give us the second number, which is 3. Well, we look at the same relationship and ask, how do we get to the third number then? So if we're starting with a 1 and we're trying to get to the third number, which is a 5, then we must add 4. So the first number plus 4 gives us the third number. So we said a plus 2 and a plus 4. So let's look at some others. Let's say 15, 17, 19. If 15 is my first number, to get to my second number, I add 2. So my first number plus 2 gives my second number. Well, 15 is my first number still. If I add 4, so my first number plus 4 gives me my third number, which is 19. Alright, so now I think I understand what my setup should be. So I don't know my first number, so it's x. I know my second number is going to be whatever the first number is plus 2. So x plus 2. And then my third number is whatever the first number is plus 4. So if I don't know my first number is x, but I'm going to add 4 to it. So now once again we're talking about the sum or the total. So I get 3x here. Now I have a 6. So there's a difference. There's a difference. 3x plus 3 versus 3x plus 6 still equal to the sum, which in this case is a negative 57. Subtract 6. Subtract 6. I have 3x equals, what is that, a negative 63. Divide both sides by 3. X equals, let's see, 63. That's, what is it, negative 21. Okay, so now that I know what the first number is, which is a negative 21, I add 2 to it, add 2 to the first number, and that gives me a negative 19. Add 4 to the first number, gives me a negative 17. So these three should total up to be that. 1 and 9 is 10, 10 and 7, 17, carry the 1. 1 and 2 is 3, 3 and 1 is 4, and another 1 is 5. There's your 57. So it checks out, but we realize that our equation changed due to the fact that we were now talking about odd integers as opposed to just straight consecutive integers. Alright, so hopefully that helps you with consecutive integers. So now let's talk about word problems right quick. Okay, word problems. Alright, so now the first problem, let's say the average life expectancy, the average life expectancy of an elephant is 24 years longer than that of a chimpanzee. Okay, the average life expectancy of an elephant is 24 years longer than that of a chimpanzee. Okay, their total life expectancy is 130 years. Excuse me. Okay, so we want to find the life expectancy for each animal. Alright, so here we go. We have the average life expectancy of an elephant is 24 years longer than that of a chimpanzee. Their total life expectancy is 130 years. Find the life expectancy for each animal. So basically we want to find the life expectancy of the elephant and of the chimp. So with word problems, I typically want to figure out, first of all, what are they wanting me to find? So in this case, they want to know what the life expectancy for an elephant is and the life expectancy for a chimpanzee. Alright, so at the end of the day, that's the information we're having to provide to answer this question. Now, what do we know? Well, we know that the elephant is 24 years longer, or lives 24 years longer than the chimp. Okay, right here it says 24 years longer than the chimp. Okay, so we know the elephant lives 24 years longer than the chimp, but do we know how long the chimp lives? It doesn't say anything about how long the chimp lives. So in this case, the chimp would be considered our unknown, our X, because we don't know how long it lives. Now, we really don't know what the life expectancy of the elephant is, but we know it's 24 years longer than the chimp. Well, if we don't know the chimp and we say the chimp is X, then the chimp plus another 24 years would be how long the elephant lives, because the elephant lives 24 more than the chimp. So the chimp plus 24 is how long the elephant lives. Okay, so we've set up our expressions for the chimp and the elephant. Now we also know that the total is 130 years. So if we combine these, then the two combined live to be 130 years. Alright, so we set them up equal to the total of 130 years. Solve for X. What is that? 106. Divide both sides by 2. X equals, what is that? 56. Oh, not 56, 53. Okay. So we know X is 53, so that tells us the chimp lives to be 53 years old on average. Okay, or lives for 53 years on average. Now, once we find that out, then we say that 53, which is X plus 24, would tell us how old the elephant is. Okay, so add 24 to 53 and you end up with 77. So the chimp is 53 years, the elephant lives 77 years, and we check it to make sure it makes sense, make sure the information we've written makes sense. So 3 plus 7 is 10. There's my 0, carry my 1. 1 and 5 is 6, 6 and 7 is 13. So it works. The age combined of the life expectancy combined of the chimp and the elephant does equal 130 years. And the elephant's life expectancy is 24 more than the chimp's life expectancy. So we've answered the problem by saying the elephant has a life expectancy of 77 years and the chimp has a life expectancy of 53 years. Okay. Alright, let's look at another. Erase all. There we go. Should have done that from the beginning. Still word problems. Okay, word problems. No, it looks messy, but work with me. Word problems still. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's say we have, alright, the perimeter of a rectangular carpet is, the perimeter of a rectangular carpet is, let's say, 230 inches. Okay, inches. That IN is inches. The perimeter of a rectangular carpet is 230 inches. The length of the carpet is 7 inches more. Again, this is inches more than the width. Alright, the length of the carpet is 7 inches more than the width. Find the dimensions. Alright, now dimensions, all they're saying is we're talking about length and width, so dimensions is just saying at the end of the day we need to know how long the carpet is and how wide the carpet is. Alright, so that's what we're looking for to answer this problem. How long is the carpet and how wide is the carpet? Okay, so let's talk about the information that's given to us. Well, they give us the perimeter is 230 inches. Okay, so we know P equals 230 inches. That's perimeter. Okay, we know that we're dealing with a rectangle, so let's draw a rectangle. Not the prettiest one, but it'll be okay. Alright, so now we know perimeter is gathered from totaling up all the sides. So this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. Add all that up to get 230. Okay, now we begin to talk about the length and the width. It says the length of the carpet is 7 more than the width. Alright, so the length is 7 more than the width. Okay, or if you like, you can write W plus 7, either way. But the question is, what is the width? Well, we don't know the width, so the width is, we just say is W. Instead of using X like we've been using, we'll just use W for width, and we'll use L to mean length. Okay, we don't know what the width is, but we know the length is 7 more than the width. Okay, now the fact that this carpet is a rectangle is important, because if we know the width is W and the length is 7 plus W, the fact that it's a rectangle tells me if this is W, then the opposite side will also be W, and if this length is 7 plus W, then the opposite side will also be 7 plus W. Okay, so that's the value of knowing that this is a rectangle. Okay, is knowing that the opposite sides are going to be equal or the same or congruent. Okay, so now we know the total perimeter is 230 inches, so we can combine or total or sum all of these sides to get to 230. So we say a W plus another W plus a 7 plus W plus another 7 plus W. Oops, that's not 7 plus W. Equals 230. Alright, so that's one side, that's another side, that's the both of the lengths. and there's both of the widths. So there are your four sides. Alright, so you got your four sides equals the 230. So now when you combine all your like terms, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 W's. Alright, then you have 7 and another 7 gives you 14. Still equals 230. Subtract 14, subtract 14. 4W equals, what is that, 216. Divide by 4, divide by 4. W equals, what's that, 5. It's 54. Just double check. 216 divided by 4. Alright, we have our 54. So now we know what the width is. Alright, so the width is 54 inches. Okay, so if the width is 54 inches, then that means if this is 54, then width is 54, so 7 plus 54 means that this would now be 61. So if the width is 54, then the length is 61. So width is 54 inches, and 54 plus 7 gives you 61 inches. Okay, that's messy. Let me rewrite that. Alright, so 61 inches for the length, 54 inches for the width, and let's total it all up to see. So if that side is 61, then this side has to be 61. If this side is 54, then this side has to be 54. So 54 and 54 is, what is that, 108. 61 and 61 is 122. Combine 8 and 2, 10. Carry a 1, 3, 230. So there's your 230 that you said it had to be. So it all checks out. So at the end of the day, you have to give me this information right here. Length is 61 inches, width is 54 inches. Alright, so these are just a couple. There are plenty of word problems that we could do that build on these relationships from one to the other, and using expressions to help you out. But these two should give you a better sense of basically how to read the problem, how to pull out the pertinent information, and focus in on what exactly you need to find to satisfy the question. So hopefully you're now a little more comfortable with word problems as well as consecutive integers. And as always, feel free to contact me if there are any further questions. At this time, we will conclude the session.